Ladies and gentlemen, hear this today. The power to control your peace lies not in what others do to you, but in what you choose to do with your thoughts and emotions. It's time to reclaim your inner calm, no matter what storm might be raging outside. Imagine a life where the negativity of others doesn't disturb your peace. A life where no comment, no criticism, no unkind act can steal your joy. That life is possible. It starts with a mindset, a decision, and an understanding of who you truly are. We live in a world where people will challenge you, test your patience, and sometimes even hurt your feelings. But here's the truth. You have the power to decide whether you will be bothered or not. The most powerful thing you can ever do for yourself is to recognize that you have complete control over your peace. Too often we let external circumstances dictate how we feel. We let a harsh comment, an unkind action, or a stressful situation disrupt our inner tranquility. But the reality is that peace is not something that's granted to us by the world around us. It's something that we can choose, something that comes from within. The moment you realize that peace is a decision you make, you take back the power to govern your emotions and how you respond to life's challenges. When we allow others to dictate our emotions, we give away our power. We let their words, their actions, or even their mere presence influence our emotional state. We get angry because someone cut us off in traffic, frustrated because someone didn't meet our expectations, or sad because of something someone said. The truth, though, is that we are allowing them to control how we feel. The power to feel at peace, no matter the situation, lies entirely within us. We decide whether we will be upset or not. It's a mindset shift that takes place when you realize your emotions don't have to be governed by external circumstances. Peace is not passive, it is an active choice. Every day we face countless moments where we can choose peace over anger, frustration, or stress. It might seem small at first, but these choices accumulate. Each time you resist the temptation to respond negatively to a situation, you strengthen your ability to remain peaceful in future moments. Just like muscle training, the more you choose peace, the stronger your peace becomes. It becomes easier to let things go, to maintain your calm in the face of adversity, to not be rattled by people or events that would otherwise cause you to lose your balance. In fact, when you recognize that you control your peace, you also recognize the power you have over your life. People cannot disrupt your serenity unless you allow them to. No one can make you feel anything you don't choose to feel. The moment you understand this, you step into a higher level of emotional maturity. You no longer see yourself as a passive recipient of the world's chaos, but as an active participant in maintaining your emotional well-being. You take full ownership of your response to life's inevitable ups and downs. Choosing peace is not about ignoring problems or pretending that difficult situations don't exist. It's about responding to those challenges with a calm mind and a steady heart. It's about understanding that while you can't control the actions of others, you can always control your reaction. Someone may yell at you, criticize you, or make a negative comment, but that doesn't mean you have to absorb their negativity. You can choose to remain unaffected by their behavior. You can choose to take the higher road, to respond with grace, or even to simply remain silent in your peace. One of the most freeing realizations in life is that peace doesn't need anyone else's approval. You don't need validation from others to maintain your calm. This realization is incredibly empowering because it means that your peace is not contingent on the world around you. You are no longer at the mercy of anyone else's actions or opinions. The external world can be chaotic, unpredictable, and full of challenges. But your peace is unwavering. It remains steadfast because it is rooted in your internal decision to choose calm regardless of what's happening outside. Furthermore, when you embrace the fact that you control your peace, you begin to protect it with intention. You become mindful of the things you expose yourself to, whether it's toxic people, negative environments, or stressful situations. You learn to create boundaries that preserve your inner calm. You may find yourself distancing from those who regularly disrupt your peace, whether it's through criticism, gossip, or negativity. You choose to guard your peace by ensuring that the things that come into your life align with your inner tranquility. This understanding that you control your peace is life-changing. It is liberating to know that no one has the power to disturb your emotional state unless you give them that power. You become the master of your emotions, and as you continue to choose peace, you discover a deeper sense of fulfillment and contentment. You no longer feel helpless or at the mercy of life's circumstances. Instead, you stand firm in your ability to maintain your peace, regardless of what comes your way. This is true emotional freedom. Other people's actions are not your responsibility. This truth can be liberating, but it also requires a shift in how we view the world around us. Too often we take on the burden of other people's behavior, believing that we somehow have a hand in their actions or that we need to react to them. The reality is that we are not responsible for how others behave, think, or feel. Each individual is responsible for their own choices, and while we may have an influence on them, their actions are ultimately their own. When someone is rude to you or treats you unfairly, it's easy to fall into the trap of internalizing their behavior. You might start to think, what did I do to deserve this? Or what could I have done differently to avoid this? However, these questions are based on the false assumption that you somehow have control over how someone else chooses to act. The truth is, people's actions are driven by their own internal world, their thoughts, beliefs, experiences, and emotions, not by anything you've done or failed to do. This doesn't mean that we should ignore or tolerate bad behavior from others, but it does mean that we don't have to take it personally. When someone lashes out in anger, it's often because they are dealing with their own frustrations, insecurities, or issues. Their behavior is a reflection of their state of mind, not a judgment on your character or worth. When you realize this, you stop carrying the weight of their actions on your shoulders. You let go of the guilt, shame, or confusion that might come from thinking that somehow you caused it. Taking responsibility for someone else's actions is not only unnecessary, but it can also be harmful. It can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even self-blame. When we constantly look to ourselves to explain why others are acting a certain way, we get stuck in a cycle of overthinking and emotional exhaustion. This cycle prevents us from maintaining our own peace and keeps us tethered to the negativity of others. Instead of focusing on how we can change others, we should redirect our energy toward managing our own responses and emotions. Another important aspect of not taking responsibility for others' actions is the realization that we can't change people. We can't force them to see things differently, to act kindly, or to treat us better. People change when they are ready to change, not when we pressure them into it. This understanding helps us let go of the need to fix or control the behavior of others. Instead of trying to change someone, we can focus on how we respond to them, whether that means setting boundaries, choosing not to engage in conflict, or simply walking away from a situation that is not healthy for us. When we stop taking responsibility for other people's actions, we free ourselves from the emotional weight that comes with trying to fix things that are out of our control. This freedom allows us to direct our energy toward things that are within our control, our own thoughts, emotions, and actions. We can choose how to respond to someone who has wronged us. We can choose to forgive, to remain calm, or to walk away. But we do so from a place of empowerment, not guilt or obligation. It's also important to recognize that not taking responsibility for others' actions doesn't mean we don't care about them. It simply means that we understand the limits of our influence. We can care for others, support them, and offer advice or help, but we cannot live their lives for them or control how they act. Each person is on their own journey, and they must navigate their own experiences and choices. Our job is not to carry their emotional burdens, but to offer compassion without becoming emotionally entangled in their struggles. Ultimately, letting go of the responsibility for other people's actions allows us to cultivate healthier relationships. When we stop trying to control how others behave, we create space for them to be themselves. We no longer feel the need to adjust our behavior to appease them or take on the responsibility for their happiness. We become more grounded in who we are and more confident in our ability to maintain peace in the face of other people's unpredictability. This shift not only strengthens our emotional well-being, but also fosters deeper, more authentic connections with others. Don't take it personally. These words can be powerful, but they are often difficult to live by in practice. When someone says something hurtful or acts in a way that feels directed at us, it's easy to internalize their behavior. We often start to believe that their words are a reflection of who we are, or that their actions are somehow a judgment on our character. However, when we learn to detach ourselves from the reactions of others, we release ourselves from the emotional chains that keep us stuck in negativity. The reality is that people's words and actions are a reflection of themselves, not us. When someone criticizes you, it often has more to do with their own issues, insecurities, or struggles than it does with you. If someone is angry, upset, or disrespectful, it typically comes from a place of their own unresolved emotions. Their response to you is shaped by their experiences, beliefs, and personal challenges. It's not a commentary on your worth or value. When we realize this, we can avoid the trap of internalizing their behavior. Taking things personally is a natural instinct, but it is also a reaction that keeps us locked in a cycle of hurt and frustration. It leads to a pattern of seeking validation from others, and when that validation doesn't come, we feel rejected or unimportant. When we take someone else's actions personally, we allow them to control how we feel. We give them the power to affect our emotional state, and in doing so, we give away our peace. By not taking it personally, we take back that power and protect our emotional well-being. It's important to remember that we cannot control the actions of others. People will say things, make assumptions, and behave in ways that may seem unfair or even unjust. However, the one thing we can control is how we interpret those actions. We can choose not to take it personally. We can choose to see it for what it is, a moment in someone else's life, not a reflection of who we are. When we adopt this mindset, we create distance between ourselves and the negative actions of others, allowing us to maintain our sense of self without being swayed by external forces. Taking things personally often leads to unnecessary conflict. When we feel attacked or misunderstood, our natural reaction is to defend ourselves, to explain, or even to retaliate. This only escalates the situation and keeps us engaged in a cycle of tension. But when we choose not to take things personally, we can respond with a calm and clear mind. We don't feel the need to justify ourselves or prove anything to others. We are able to maintain our dignity and avoid unnecessary confrontation. Learning not to take things personally also involves understanding that everyone is fighting their own battles. When someone is rude or dismissive, it is often a reflection of their own struggles, not a reflection of our own worth. We might never know the full story of why they act the way they do. They could be dealing with personal issues, stress, or deep emotional pain. When we realize that their behavior is about them, not us, we can respond with empathy rather than defensiveness. Another powerful aspect of not taking things personally is that it frees us from the burden of overthinking. When we take everything personally, we begin to ruminate on the words and actions of others, trying to figure out what we did wrong or why they treated us a certain way. This mental energy drains us and prevents us from moving forward. But when we release the need to take things personally, we stop wasting time and energy on things that are beyond our control. We preserve our mental clarity and focus on what truly matters in our lives. In practicing not taking things personally, we develop emotional resilience. We become less affected by the opinions of others and less likely to let someone else's bad day ruin our own. We build inner strength and become more secure in who we are. When we no longer seek validation from others or take their words to heart, we are free to live authentically. We don't need external approval to feel good about ourselves. Instead, we find peace and validation within, knowing that we are enough, just as we are, regardless of what others may say or do. Releasing emotional weight is one of the most important steps we can take toward living a freer, more fulfilling life. We often carry emotional burdens without even realizing it. These burdens manifest as resentment, anger, fear, guilt, or sadness. Feelings we hold on to for long periods of time, sometimes for years. These emotions, although understandable, can weigh heavily on our hearts and minds, making it difficult to move forward and find peace. The weight of these unresolved feelings can influence our health, our relationships, and our ability to live in the present. The first step in releasing emotional weight is recognizing that we no longer need to carry it. Many of us cling to negative emotions because we feel justified in holding on to them. Someone hurt us, treated us unfairly, or betrayed our trust, and we believe that by holding on to our anger or hurt, we are somehow punishing them or protecting ourselves. However, what we don't realize is that we are only hurting ourselves. The longer we hold on to negative emotions, the heavier the emotional weight becomes. We become more entrenched in our past experiences, allowing them to define our present and influence our future. To move forward, we must learn to let go of this weight. Releasing emotional weight starts with the understanding that forgiveness is not just for the person who wronged us, it is for us as well. Forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior or excusing it. It is about freeing ourselves from the grip of those emotions that keep us bound to the past. Holding on to anger or resentment keeps us tethered to the very situation or person that hurt us. By forgiving, we create space in our hearts and minds for healing and growth. Forgiveness allows us to release the emotional weight and move forward with our lives. One of the reasons we hold on to emotional weight is because we are afraid that by letting go, we will be vulnerable or weak. We may feel that if we release our anger or hurt, we are somehow letting the other person off the hook. But this is a misconception. Releasing emotional weight is a sign of strength, not weakness. It takes tremendous courage to let go of feelings that have been a part of us for so long. It requires the willingness to face our pain and move beyond it. When we choose to release the emotional weight, we regain control over our lives and take back our power. Another key element in releasing emotional weight is self-compassion. Often, we carry emotional burdens because we are hard on ourselves. We may blame ourselves for things that were beyond our control or for decisions we regret. We hold on to guilt, shame, or self-doubt, believing that these feelings will somehow motivate us to do better or be better. But in reality, they only serve to hold us back. We must learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend. Self-compassion allows us to acknowledge our mistakes and imperfections without judgment, enabling us to release the weight of guilt and move forward with a sense of grace. The process of releasing emotional weight also involves understanding that our emotions are valid, but they do not define us. Just because we feel anger or sadness doesn't mean we are defined by those feelings. Emotions are temporary. They come and go. When we hold on to them for too long, we let them take up space in our minds and hearts, preventing us from moving on. To release emotional weight, we must learn to acknowledge our emotions without letting them dictate our actions or self-worth. We can feel anger or sadness, but we don't have to carry them around indefinitely. Sometimes releasing emotional weight requires taking a step back and reassessing our attachment to certain people, places, or situations. We may hold on to relationships or memories that no longer serve us, thinking that by doing so we are holding on to something valuable. But in reality, these attachments may be contributing to our emotional burden. It's important to recognize when it's time to let go of people or situations that no longer bring us peace or growth. Letting go of these attachments is not about abandoning others. It's about choosing to protect our own well-being and creating space for healthier, more positive influences in our lives. Finally, releasing emotional weight requires patience and self-awareness. It's not something that can be done overnight. We may have to work through layers of emotions, beliefs, and experiences before we can truly let go. It may take time to forgive, to heal, and to move on. But every step we take toward releasing emotional weight brings us closer to a life of greater freedom and peace. By acknowledging our emotions, allowing ourselves to feel them, and then choosing to release them, we create space for joy, love, and growth. Releasing emotional weight is an act of self-care, a way of honoring our own needs and well-being. Cultivating compassion is one of the most transformative practices we can engage in. Compassion is the ability to empathize with the suffering of others and to take action to alleviate that suffering. It's more than just feeling sorry for someone. It's about understanding their pain and responding with kindness and care. In a world where we are often consumed with our own struggles and concerns, developing compassion requires a conscious effort to look beyond ourselves and recognize the humanity in others. It involves opening our hearts to the experiences of others, even when those experiences are difficult to understand or relate to. At its core, compassion is an expression of love and understanding. When we cultivate compassion, we shift from a mindset of judgment and distance to one of connection and empathy. We begin to see the world through the eyes of others, acknowledging that everyone is carrying some form of burden, whether visible or hidden. This awareness helps us let go of assumptions and prejudices, allowing us to approach others with a sense of openness and non-judgment. Instead of reacting with criticism or indifference, We respond with a desire to offer support and understanding. Cultivating compassion begins with self-compassion. Before we can extend kindness to others, we must first learn to be kind to ourselves. Many of us are our own harshest critics, quick to judge ourselves for our mistakes, flaws, or shortcomings. This inner self-criticism not only harms our self-esteem, but also limits our ability to show compassion to others. When we practice self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. By recognizing our own pain and struggles without judgment, we create a foundation for extending that same grace to others. Another key aspect of compassion is patience. It's easy to become frustrated with others, especially when they don't meet our expectations or behave in ways we don't understand. However, cultivating compassion requires us to be patient with people, even in their imperfections. We must acknowledge that everyone is on their own journey and that they are navigating challenges and experiences that we may not fully comprehend. Patience allows us to meet others where they are rather than imposing our expectations or demands on them. It teaches us to respond with understanding rather than frustration. As we cultivate compassion, we also develop a deeper sense of interconnectedness. We begin to see that the suffering of one person is connected to the suffering of all people. When we are compassionate toward others, we contribute to the healing of the collective. This understanding helps us move beyond the belief that our own happiness is the most important thing in life. Instead, we recognize that true fulfillment comes from the ability to uplift and support others. In this way, compassion becomes a powerful force for positive change, both in our own lives and in the world around us. Compassion is also a tool for healing. When we offer compassion to others, we help to alleviate their pain, even if only for a moment. But the act of giving compassion also heals us in return. Studies have shown that practicing compassion releases endorphins, the body's natural feel-good chemicals, which promote a sense of well-being. When we reach out to others with love and kindness, we not only make a positive impact on their lives, but also enhance our own emotional health. Compassion fosters a sense of purpose and fulfillment, as we realize that we have the ability to make a meaningful difference in the lives of others. A significant part of cultivating compassion is listening. Too often we rush to offer advice or solutions when others share their struggles with us, thinking that our words will fix the situation. However, the most compassionate thing we can often do is to simply listen without judgment or interruption. Active listening allows others to feel heard and validated. It creates a safe space for them to express their emotions without fear of rejection or criticism. By listening with empathy, we honor the experiences of others and provide them with the emotional support they need to heal and grow. Compassion also requires us to step outside of our comfort zones. It's easy to show kindness to those we know well or to those who share our views and values. But true compassion asks us to reach out to those who may be different from us, whether in terms of background, beliefs, or experiences. It challenged us to extend kindness and understanding to those who may not always be easy to connect with. By embracing the differences in others and offering compassion in the face of those differences, we contribute to creating a more inclusive, supportive world. Compassion does not discriminate. It transcends barriers and unites us in our shared humanity. Your reactions are your power. In every situation, how you choose to respond to what happens around you is where your true power lies. Life is full of unexpected events, challenges, and encounters with people who may not always act in the way we would hope or expect. However, the one thing that no one else can control is how you react. Your response to a situation is entirely within your control, and how you choose to react can determine the course of your day, your emotional state, and even the trajectory of your life. This power is something you hold within yourself, and it's one of the most valuable tools for creating a fulfilling and peaceful existence. Too often we react impulsively to external events, allowing our emotions to take the lead. When someone says something hurtful or unfair, our immediate response might be to lash out in anger or frustration. When things don't go according to plan, we may respond with disappointment or anxiety. These knee-jerk reactions are natural, but they are not necessarily the best course of action. They can lead to unnecessary conflict, regret, and emotional exhaustion. The true power lies in choosing how to respond, even when faced with challenging or provoking situations. Your reactions are a reflection of your inner state. When you allow external events or the actions of others to dictate your emotional response, you give away your personal power. You become a passive participant in your own life. reacting to circumstances instead of consciously choosing how to engage with them. However, when you take responsibility for your reactions, you reclaim that power. You no longer let external circumstances dictate how you feel or behave. Instead, you take control of your emotions, using them as a tool to respond in a way that aligns with your values, goals, and sense of peace. Responding with intention rather than reacting impulsively requires self-awareness. It requires you to pause, breathe, and assess the situation before acting. In moments of stress or frustration, it can be helpful to step back and reflect on the bigger picture. Is this situation worth reacting to in the way you initially feel? Is the person who upset you truly the one who holds power over your emotions? Often, by taking a step back and giving ourselves the space to process, we realize that our initial emotional response is not the only possible reaction. We can choose to respond with calmness, understanding, or even silence, which allows us to maintain our emotional peace and dignity. Choosing your reactions with intention also requires a sense of emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is about understanding that while we can't control what happens to us, we have full control over how we react to it. It involves recognizing that every situation, no matter how frustrating or painful, is an opportunity to grow and strengthen our emotional resilience. By responding thoughtfully, we not only preserve our own peace, but also set an example for others of how to handle difficult situations with grace and self-control. Your reactions also influence your relationships with others. When we respond with kindness, patience, and empathy, we foster a sense of trust and respect in our interactions. People are drawn to those who can remain calm under pressure, who are able to listen without judgment, and who respond with understanding. When we react with negativity, defensiveness, or aggression, however, we often escalate the situation and create division. Our reactions have the power to either heal or harm, to build bridges or burn them. By choosing to react with compassion and mindfulness, we create stronger, more positive connections with those around us. Another critical aspect of owning your reactions is that it allows you to maintain your inner peace. Life can be full of chaos, unpredictability, and stress, but you have the power to remain centered within yourself. When you react impulsively to every frustration or challenge, you open yourself up to a constant state of emotional turmoil. However, when you choose to respond with calmness, perspective, and intentionality, you create an inner sense of stability that no external situation can shake. Your inner peace becomes unshakable because you have learned that your peace does not depend on what happens around you, but on how you choose to engage with the world. Taking responsibility for your reactions also means learning to let go of the need for external validation. Often we react to situations based on how we think others will perceive us. We might get defensive if we feel judged or misunderstood, or we might become passive-aggressive when we feel slighted. However, when we realize that our reactions are about us, not about seeking approval or defending our ego, we can respond more authentically. We no longer feel the need to please others or prove our worth. We can stand firm in our responses, knowing that we are acting in alignment with our true self, not in reaction to the expectations of others. In the end, the power to shape your life lies in how you choose to respond to it. Life will throw many challenges your way, and people will inevitably disappoint, frustrate, and upset you at times. But at every moment, you have the power to choose your response. By consciously deciding how to react, you not only preserve your emotional well-being, but also create a life of peace, joy, and purpose. Your reactions are your power. Embrace them, own them, and use them to shape the life you want to live. Peace is a choice. It's not something that just happens to us, nor is it something we wait for others to provide. In a world filled with noise, chaos, and external pressures, peace can often feel elusive, as though it's just out of reach. We may find ourselves wishing for peace, longing for moments of stillness in the midst of daily turmoil. However, the truth is that peace is not a passive experience. It is something we actively choose. It's a mindset and a state of being that we cultivate regardless of the circumstances around us. Many people believe that peace will come once the external factors in their life settle down, once the job stress subsides, once the relationship is fixed, or once the world feels less chaotic. But in reality, external circumstances are often beyond our control. The key to finding peace lies in our internal world. We can't always control what happens outside of us, but we can control how we respond to it. The decision to choose peace begins with an inner commitment to let go of the need for external validation, control, or perfection. When we make peace a priority within ourselves, it becomes easier to find it, no matter what is going on around us. Choosing peace means letting go of the constant need to be right or to have everything go our way. It's about surrendering the ego's desire to control every outcome and instead embracing acceptance. So much of our stress comes from our resistance to how things are, from our desire to change people, circumstances, or outcomes that we have no power over. When we choose peace, we stop fighting with the present moment. We stop demanding that life be different and start accepting things as they are, trusting that we can handle whatever comes our way with calm and clarity. Peace also comes from the choice to release grudges and forgive. Holding on to past hurts, disappointments, or anger ties us to negative energy that keeps us from experiencing true peace. We may believe that holding on to resentment is a form of protection or justice, but in reality, it only keeps us shackled to the past. When we choose forgiveness, we free ourselves from the grip of negative emotions and allow peace to fill the space that was once occupied by bitterness. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing wrongdoing. It means releasing the hold it has on our hearts so that we can move forward without carrying the weight of unresolved anger. Choosing peace also requires setting boundaries. Sometimes the peace we seek is disrupted by unhealthy relationships or toxic environments. While we can't always change the people around us, we can choose how much we allow their behavior to affect us. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care and a way of protecting our mental and emotional well-being. By choosing to remove ourselves from situations or people that drain our peace, we create space for calm and tranquility. We reclaim our peace by no longer tolerating conditions that compromise our sense of self-worth and well-being. Another powerful aspect of choosing peace is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to stay present in the moment without judgment, without getting lost in the past or worrying about the future. When we are mindful, we stop allowing our thoughts and emotions to control us. Instead, we learn to observe them without attachment, allowing them to come and go without reacting to them. This awareness brings a sense of peace because we are no longer overwhelmed by the constant barrage of thoughts and worries. We realize that the present moment is all we truly have, and it is within this moment that peace exists. Choosing peace also involves taking responsibility for our own happiness. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that peace depends on others, our partner, our friends, our coworkers, or society at large. But the truth is that no one else can give us the peace we seek. We must take responsibility for creating it within ourselves. When we rely on external circumstances to determine our peace, we give away our power. But when we make the conscious choice to cultivate peace internally, we are no longer dependent on outside forces to dictate how we feel. We are empowered to create a peaceful life no matter what is happening around us. Lastly, peace is a choice that requires constant practice and nurturing. It's not something that we can simply decide once and forget about. It's a daily commitment. Life will inevitably present challenges, and we will face moments of stress, frustration, and conflict. But when peace is a choice, we approach these challenges with a calm, centered mind. We recognize that peace is a state of mind we can return to, no matter how many times we may temporarily lose it. By practicing mindfulness, forgiveness, boundary setting, and self-care, we create a foundation of peace that can withstand the ups and downs of life. Peace becomes not just a momentary feeling, but a way of being. Rising above the storm is a powerful metaphor for navigating the challenges and difficulties that inevitably arise in life. Just as a bird soars above a storm, finding peace and calm in the midst of turbulence, we too have the ability to rise above our personal storms. Life is full of unexpected storms, whether they come in the form of personal loss, disappointment, illness, or any number of obstacles. These storms can feel overwhelming, leaving us feeling trapped and powerless. But the ability to rise above them is rooted in our mindset and our resilience. It's about choosing not to be defined by the chaos around us, but to remain steady and grounded, finding ways to navigate through even the most difficult times. When faced with a storm, it's easy to get caught up in the intensity of the moment. The winds of frustration, fear, and doubt can cloud our judgment and make it difficult to see beyond the immediate turmoil. In these moments, it's important to remind ourselves that the storm is not the end. It's simply a temporary challenge that we can rise above. Storms are a natural part of life, and while they can be painful, they are not permanent. Just as a storm will eventually pass, so too will the hardships we face. By shifting our focus from the intensity of the storm to the belief that we have the strength to overcome it, we can find the courage to rise above it. Rising above the storm also requires a shift in perspective. When we are in the midst of a difficult situation, it can be easy to feel like the storm is all-encompassing, like it's the only thing that matters. But by stepping back and gaining perspective, we can see that this storm, no matter how fierce it may seem, is just one moment in the greater journey of our lives. The storm is not who we are, and it doesn't define our future. When we rise above it, we see the bigger picture, an opportunity for growth, strength, and transformation. This perspective helps us approach the storm with a sense of purpose rather than fear, knowing that there is always something valuable to learn from, even the most challenging experiences. One of the key elements of rising above the storm is resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, to remain strong and adaptable even when life throws challenges our way. Resilience is not about avoiding storms, but about learning how to weather them. It's about finding the inner strength to keep moving forward even when the winds are howling and the rain is pouring. Resilience doesn't mean that we won't experience pain or difficulty. It means that we have the capacity to face those moments with courage and grace, knowing that we have the ability to rise again, no matter how hard the storm may be. Another essential part of rising above the storm is maintaining a sense of inner peace. In the midst of chaos, it's easy to lose our sense of calm and get swept away by our emotions. But true strength lies in our ability to stay grounded, even when everything around us feels unpredictable and uncertain. This requires cultivating practices that help us stay centered, whether it's through meditation, prayer, deep breathing, or simply taking time to pause and reflect. When we maintain our inner peace during turbulent times, we create a foundation that allows us to rise above the storm with clarity and purpose. We stop reacting out of fear or frustration and instead respond with wisdom and composure. Rising above the storm also involves embracing change. Storms often force us to confront aspects of our lives that we may have been avoiding or unwilling to change. While this can be uncomfortable, it also provides an opportunity for growth. Change is a natural part of life, and often it's through the storms that we learn what we are truly capable of. We may discover strengths we never knew we had, or realize that certain things in our lives no longer serve us. By embracing change, we can allow the storm to teach us rather than letting it break us. Change, though difficult, can lead to new beginnings and a clearer path forward. The support of others can be a crucial element in rising above the storm. While it's important to find strength within ourselves, we don't have to face the storm alone. Sometimes the most powerful way to rise above a storm is to reach out to others for support. Whether it's a friend, family member, mentor, or community, the love and encouragement of those around us can provide the strength we need to persevere. Sharing our struggles with others helps lighten the load, reminding us that we are not alone in our difficulties. Sometimes just knowing that someone cares and believes in us can make all the difference in finding the strength to rise above the storm. Finally, rising above the storm involves cultivating hope. In the midst of a storm, it's easy to lose sight of the brighter days ahead. We may feel like we're stuck in a cycle of darkness, unsure of when the storm will end. But hope is the anchor that keeps us moving forward. Hope is the belief that no matter how hard things are right now, they can and will get better. Hope helps us see the possibility of a brighter future and reminds us that the storm is not forever. When we hold on to hope, we find the strength to endure, knowing that after the storm, there will always be calm. Forgiveness is one of the most profound and transformative acts we can undertake. It is often seen as an act of kindness toward others. But what many don't realize is that forgiveness is equally, if not more important for our own well-being. Healing, whether emotional, spiritual, or even physical, is often hindered by the weight of resentment and unforgiveness we carry. When we hold on to anger, bitterness, or the desire for retribution, we lock ourselves in a prison of our own making. In this prison, we remain chained to the past, unable to move forward or heal. Forgiveness then becomes the key to releasing those chains, allowing us to step into a new season of healing and growth. The act of forgiveness does not diminish the wrong that was done to us. It doesn't mean we are excusing harmful behavior, nor does it imply that what happened was acceptable. Forgiveness is not about condoning what was wrong, but about releasing the emotional grip that the offense has over us. When we choose to forgive, we choose to let go of the anger, hurt, and resentment that hold us hostage. These emotions, while natural in response to being wronged, ultimately prevent us from healing. Forgiveness is about finding freedom, not for the person who hurt us, but for ourselves. It is about giving up the need to control the situation or punish the offender, which in turn allows us to reclaim our peace and move forward. One of the reasons forgiveness is so powerful is because it releases us from the emotional burden of holding on to the past. Unforgiveness is like carrying a heavy weight, one that we drag behind us everywhere we go. The more we cling to resentment, the heavier that weight becomes, impacting our mental and physical health. Studies have shown that holding on to anger and grudges can lead to a variety of health problems, including high blood pressure, weakened immune function, and increased stress. By choosing to forgive, we lighten this load and create space for emotional and physical healing to occur. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not only a moral or spiritual practice, but a physical one that enables us to live a healthier, more vibrant life. Forgiveness also opens the door to emotional healing. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the cycles of negativity and pain that often define our relationships. Unforgiveness can create a toxic environment in our hearts, one that is filled with bitterness, distrust, and unresolved pain. These emotions can affect how we interact with others and how we view the world. When we choose forgiveness, we clear out this emotional clutter, allowing healing to flow in. We make room for empathy, compassion, and understanding, which are essential for restoring relationships and finding peace within ourselves. In forgiving others, we also learn to forgive ourselves, which is often the most challenging part of the process. Healing through forgiveness is not always immediate and it's not always easy. There are times when the wounds inflicted upon us are deep and the emotional scars seem impossible to erase. In these moments, it's important to recognize that forgiveness is a process, not an event. It may take time for the pain to subside, and we may need to forgive repeatedly before we feel truly free. However, the act of choosing forgiveness, even when it feels difficult, is in itself an act of healing. With each step toward forgiveness, we release a bit more of the hurt and allow ourselves to heal at a deeper level. Forgiveness is not a one-time decision, but a continual choice to release the hold of the past and move toward wholeness. The process of forgiveness also involves letting go of the need for justice or revenge. When we are wronged, our natural instinct may be to seek retribution or to demand that the person who hurt us pay for their actions. However, this desire for justice only keeps us tethered to the situation. The more we focus on what was done to us, the more power we give to the offender and the less power we have over our own emotional well-being. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a way of taking back that power. It is saying, I will no longer allow this wrongdoing to dictate how I feel or how I live. By letting go of the need for justice or revenge, we empower ourselves to heal, to move on, and to create a future that is not defined by past pain. Forgiveness is also a reflection of our own growth and maturity. It is not something that comes easily to everyone, especially when we have been deeply hurt. However, as we grow emotionally and spiritually, we begin to realize that forgiveness is not just for the person who wronged us, but for our own peace and well-being. It takes a certain level of emotional maturity to recognize that holding on to past grievances only keeps us trapped in the cycle of pain. When we choose forgiveness, we acknowledge our own power to heal and transform, even in the face of injustice. Forgiveness becomes a reflection of our ability to rise above the hurt and embrace the possibility of a new beginning. Finally, forgiveness brings us closer to the essence of our true nature. At our core, we are beings of love and light. Resentment, anger, and unforgiveness are the emotional blocks that keep us from experiencing this truth. When we forgive, we return to the purity of our heart, clearing the emotional debris that prevents us from fully connecting with ourselves and others. Forgiveness allows us to embody compassion, empathy, and love, which are the natural expressions of our soul. It reminds us that healing is not just about repairing our wounds, but about reconnecting with the love and peace that is always available to us. Guarding your peace is one of the most important responsibilities you will ever undertake. In a world that is constantly changing and filled with noise, distractions, and demands, maintaining inner peace can feel like a monumental task. Yet it is essential to understand that peace does not just happen. It is something we must actively protect. Our peace is vulnerable to external forces, and if we are not intentional about guarding it, we can easily lose it. Every day we are bombarded by negative energy, stressful situations, and the demands of others. And if we're not careful, we can allow these things to invade our hearts and minds. Guarding our peace means taking the necessary steps to protect ourselves from these outside influences, ensuring that we can stay centered and calm no matter what is happening around us. The first step in guarding your peace is recognizing the importance of boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Without them, we open ourselves to constant intrusion, whether from other people's expectations, toxic relationships, or the pressures of daily life. Boundaries are not meant to shut others out, but rather to create a safe space where we can preserve our energy and emotional health. Setting clear boundaries means knowing when to say no, when to step back, and when to distance yourself from situations that drain or harm you. It's about respecting your own needs and limitations and understanding that you don't have to sacrifice your peace for the sake of pleasing others. Another key element in guarding your peace is being mindful of what you allow to influence you. We live in a world where information, opinions, and emotions are constantly being thrown at us, often without our consent. Whether it's the news, social media, or the opinions of people around us, it's easy to get caught up in the negativity and fear that is often shared. This influx of information can create stress and anxiety, making it difficult to maintain peace of mind. To guard your peace, you must be intentional about the sources you allow to shape your thoughts and emotions. Choose to fill your mind with positivity, wisdom, and inspiration, and limit your exposure to negativity or toxic environments. What we consume, whether it's information, media, or the people we surround ourselves with, has a profound impact on our peace. So it's crucial to be discerning in what we allow into our lives. In addition to setting boundaries and being mindful of external influences, guarding your peace requires taking responsibility for your internal state. Often we blame external circumstances for our lack of peace, but the truth is that peace begins within. It is easy to become a victim of our emotions and circumstances, but true power lies in our ability to manage our internal world. This means being aware of our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, and choosing how we respond to them. When we practice emotional regulation and mindfulness, we create a foundation of peace that is not easily shaken. Rather than reacting impulsively to difficult situations, we can pause, reflect, and respond in a way that aligns with our values and maintains our inner peace. Guarding your peace requires taking control of your thoughts and emotions, rather than allowing them to control you. One of the most effective ways to guard your peace is through self-care. Self-care is not just about taking care of your physical health, but also nurturing your emotional and spiritual well-being. When we neglect ourselves, we become vulnerable to stress, burnout, and emotional exhaustion. Practicing self-care means taking time to rest, recharge, and do things that bring you joy and fulfillment. This might look like spending time in nature, practicing mindfulness, engaging in creative activities, or simply allowing yourself to relax without feeling guilty. By prioritizing self-care, you replenish your energy reserves and create a sense of balance, which is essential for maintaining peace in a chaotic world. Guarding your peace also involves letting go of the need for control. We often try to control everything around us, our circumstances, the people in our lives, and even the outcomes of situations. However, the more we try to control, the more we create stress and anxiety. Control is an illusion, and the more we hold on to it, the more we disrupt our own peace. Guarding your peace means accepting that there are things beyond your control and learning to let go. It means surrendering to the flow of life and trusting that things will unfold as they are meant to. When you release the need for control, you create space for peace to enter your life as you stop resisting the natural course of events. Another aspect of guarding your peace is practicing forgiveness. Holding on to grudges, resentment, and anger only weighs us down and disrupts our peace. When we refuse to forgive, we allow negative emotions to fester. And these emotions can poison our relationships and our own well-being. Forgiveness is not about excusing the behavior of others, but about freeing ourselves from the emotional burden of past hurts. It is an act of self-care that allows us to release the hold that anger and bitterness have over our hearts, making room for peace to flourish. By choosing to forgive, we break free from the toxic grip of negative emotions and protect our peace from being disturbed. Finally, guarding your peace requires cultivating a mindset of gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for maintaining peace because it shifts our focus from what is wrong to what is right in our lives. When we focus on the positive aspects of our lives, we create a sense of contentment and peace. Gratitude helps us reframe challenges and difficulties, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. By practicing gratitude daily, we train our minds to focus on the good, which in turn strengthens our ability to guard our peace. When we are thankful for the blessings we have, it becomes easier to remain calm and centered, no matter what life throws our way.